Good morning, Zio here, and today we are going to go over to the UK and talk about loot boxes because an interesting thing has developed, and it's quite worthy of taking a look at. So, with all that, let's get into it. Now, loot boxes is something we've talked about before in the past, right? You can see the thing that's on the screen right now. I'm pretty sure we've talked about that or used it in reference with something. But, I'm not a fan of loot boxes. If you hadn't figured that one out yet, if you're new to the channel, you may not know, but I'm not a huge fan of loot boxes. However, that doesn't mean I'm not, against all microtransactions or anything. I understand that they do have a place depending on the game, depending on how things are set up, among other stuff. But loot boxes, on the other hand, really gotta go. I mean, seriously, I hate loot boxes with probably a fiery passion, to be totally honest, because if there's something that I want, right, I would like to just straight up pay for the thing instead of having to spend, a bunch of money rolling on boxes that may or may not contain the thing that I actually want. I always tend to go back to League of Legends with this, right? I don't know how League of Legends works now. I think at one point they had a loot box system. They may still have a loot box system. I don't know if they do or not because I hadn't played it in years. However, back when I did play, they put a skin up. If you wanted it, you paid for the money. You converted it into riot points or whatever, and then you paid for it or you used in-game currency to pay for the skin. That sort of thing. And I, quite frankly, think that that is a very great model. I mean, when it comes to monetization and stuff, that's fine. If I want Superhero Teemo, I could go out and buy Superhero Teemo or Bald Eagle Anivia or whatever they've got on the store for whatever season, that sort of thing, stuff like that. I could just go out and go ahead and pay the money for it, convert it into whatever points, buy it, everything's said and done. And I don't have to spend money after money after money on loot boxes for it to randomly drop, or pieces of it to randomly drop. So if I get like 5 pieces, it forms together to make the character or whatever it is that I want. That sort of thing is very egregious in my opinion. So we're talking about the UK, of course. But I did want to show a few things here, just in case you don't really quite understand where I'm getting at. What we're looking at on the screen, of course, is a slot machine, a digital slot machine, because apparently slot machines are into the digital era now. But, you put in money, random things come up, and then you win money or tokens or whatever it is, and, or lose, something like that. But, of course, when I typed in looking for this stuff, I think these are all like winning actions or something, or winning roles. I don't know how these things, how these videos work, but there's apparently a whole lot of videos of people playing slot machines. Did not know that. And this is some random person opening loot boxes when I typed in a loot box opening. But yeah, essentially, you open a loot box, you get some stuff out of it, right? You open up another loot box, open the box, and you get more random stuff in it. You can't really know, you don't know what you're going to get. And of course, with it, you could wind up with something that you've already gotten, and you wind up with duplicates and all this other stuff, and I just really hate it. Anyway, so sorry, random person who I stole this from. Yeah, anyway, I'm using you to talk about stuff. We're talking about loot boxes, and I don't really know much about the UK's parliament system or whatever. What is it? Parliament? Parliament? Anyway, a word that I can't say. Parliament. Anyway, I don't know how any of the UK handles their government stuff. They do things different than we do here in the US. But apparently the House of Lords Gambling Committee says video game loot boxes should be regulated under gambling laws. This is something that has been sort of hitting the what's the word I'm looking for? The radar of several governments a lot around the world, which is a bad thing. don't get me wrong, it's good but bad at the same time, because one, you know, players like myself and stuff, you know, gamers like myself and others have been saying, you know, stop with the loot boxes, get the loot boxes out of here. You want us to pay for something, that's fine, we pay for it or whatnot, but you got to stop with the loot boxes. And then people like EA have just ramped it up. You can see, what was it, Battlefront, Star Wars Battlefront, where essentially the game was created with this whole monetary thing in place, right? And they had to change it because of how horrible it was done. And then the other game they were working on at the time, that I can't remember what it was, also had to be redone from the ground up because of the backlash that happened with Battlefield or Battlefront. Anyway, you know, yeah. I was going with that with a point and I totally forgot what it was. But the point is, you know, we've been saying, you know, get the loot boxes out of our games, right? It's gambling. Quit it with this. We want to pay you for stuff, but at the same time, we don't want to pay for, you know, this box that might have a 0.0001% chance of dropping the thing that we actually want. We just want to pay you the $20 or whatever it is for it straight up, you know, instead of spending 40 to 50 or more dollars on loot boxes and not a single one of them actually drops the item. And of course, you know, there was that fear that the government will eventually come in. They're going to see something that they can get their hands into, and they might regulate it, or worse, you know, make it even worse, you know, and start taking their cut, and then the prices of things start going up, and then they get more in there and all this other stuff. You know, it could go either way. And the one thing you don't really want is government to come in to regulate your stuff, because when that starts happening, we all lose sometimes. So, you know, it's not something you really want, is government regulation over your product. But it looks like that is just going to be the way we're going to go. You know, other countries have definitely hit up where they've straight up banned loot boxes. In one of them, I think it was Belgium or something, where they straight up just banned loot boxes altogether, and are forcing places like EA to pay a fine as long as they keep them, if they keep them in their games, which right now, at the moment, I believe EA is just eating that cost. They're just like, okay, we'll eat that cost because it's not that big of an issue for them, because they're making more in the loot boxes in the area then they can easily just pay the fee and continue doing what they're doing. But if more governments start enacting changes like that, it could be a very severe problem for the industry as a whole. But the Lords say that they should be classified as games of chance, which is true, which would bring them under the Gambling Act of 2005. I'm not sure what that is. It's a gambling act. Duh. Anyway, the government must act immediately to bring loot boxes within, to remit of gambling legislation and regulation, said a statement accompanying the report. But loot boxes have been a long controversial blah blah blah, that's what we've been talking about, right? But Lord Grad, is that how you say that? Grad. Anyway, chairman of the committee told the BBC that lots of other countries have already started regulating loot boxes because they can see the dangers, which is teaching kids to gamble. And you also know, if you followed me for a bit, I hate the idea of think of the children, because I find it to be completely ridiculous. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, you should go ahead and do so, and grab yourself a cup of coffee. It's always necessary. Anyway, but yeah, I am not always a fan of the think of the kids thing, because a lot of people like to use that when it comes to stuff. They'll think of the children, and I'm like, think of yourself, or, you know, why don't you try parenting your children instead? Maybe that's a problem. But yeah, also in, you know, one way it's like it's conditioning kids. So I kind of understand that, but at the same time, it's not really the kids I'm worried about. Although that is a thing that is need to be worried about, because, you know, things like FIFA and stuff are rated E for everybody, which of course allows them to get a hold of, you know, their parents' credit cards if they got them linked up, and we wind up with stories like this. My son spent $3,160 in one game. And that's a story about FIFA. So, it can happen. My advice to parents, by the way, is to password protect those things. Yeah, I do have my cards linked up to the PlayStation, stuff like that, but it needs a password that only I know. So, don't make it something simple and easy. Make it a good password so your kid doesn't input your birthday or something and it turns out that was the password you used. That's dumb. Don't do that. But anyway, so yeah, parents parent. But anyway, so the Gambling Act was way behind what it actually happens in the market. And he added that the overwhelming majority of reports recommendations could be enacted today, as they don't require legislation, because I can't read, never can read. But anyway, that's also a true thing. When it comes to law, I know, like, definitely here in the States or whatnot, the law is usually a good say 10 years or so behind what's actually going on in the world, especially when it comes to technology and other stuff. That's why you've got things, the fights about free speech on platforms that are, like Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, things like that, because, on one hand, they consider themselves, just a platform for users to use, and they use things like safe harbor protections to protect themselves from anything that actually would be over the line or against the law and stuff like that. But at the same time, they tend to curate content and block certain content and censor certain things and stuff like that. And you got people like myself who are trying to make these arguments about how you can't have your cake and eat it too kind of deal. You either are a platform that can fall within the safe harbor provisions, or you're going to be a platform, and they're two different terms and I can't remember them right off the top of my head, but where you curate the content and you micromanage everything and stuff like that. So you get those kind of arguments and fights back and forth all the time as a result, because quite frankly our law isn't where it needs to be, and there has been talks about updating that law, fixing that law and stuff recently here in the States, of course, where maybe in order for them to actually continue getting that in a best case scenario anyway, for me, I guess in my opinion, how's that, would be if they want to remain with safe harbor protections, they have to follow, say, the actual US law when it comes to things like that, and they can't just blanket block somebody because they said a word that is unsavory or something like that. I got it. We don't want certain ideologies out there or whatnot, and I fully understand some of that stuff. Try not to get too political or whatnot about it, but when you ban people like that, you don't actually do a whole lot other than embolden them and get them going underground. Then you have no idea what they're doing. They move to another site that will allow it. You get them banned from that. Another site pops up. They move to that. And, their followers go with them, and then other people go check them out because they're the ones you can't hear or can't listen to for one reason or another, because, Big Brother says you can't, or the big tech forum says you can't, and then you run the risk of those people also being indoctrinated into that thing, which is a weird thing that, the other side of that whole spectrum doesn't seem to really understand for some reason. It's like, if you don't want somebody to be talking about that stuff, the best thing you can do is to just let them continue talking. If they have bad ideas, shine light on it. Sunlight is the best disinfectant when it comes to that. But anyway, we've gotten onto a tangent again. Anyway, so yeah, they can engage or enact certain policies that don't require legislation. That's a thing that they can do. But yeah, there is academic research which they are going to cite, proves sort of a connection but not necessarily a causal link between loot box spending and problem gambling. And there are stories out there of people who are gamblers who then get into things like loot boxes and stuff, and they just keep spending more and more money into these loot boxes because they're getting the same high as if they're paying the slot machines, and I cannot stop hiccuping. I am so sorry. But yeah, you know, they just keep getting that same high, so they keep opening the packs and all that stuff. But the Lord's report concludes that ministers should make new regulations which explicitly state that loot boxes are games of chance. It also says that the same definition should apply to any other in-game item paid for with real money, such as FIFA player packs. Now, this statement here, I half agree with it and half don't. All right? The way it's laid out, I honestly, if I didn't think about it, would be, oh yeah, totally fine. That's cool. Because of the FIFA player pack thing, right? And what that is essentially, card packs you open up for players and other items in the FIFA game, and that's how you get different players on your team and stuff like that, right? It's a loot box, essentially, in a card pack. Almost similar to, I guess, what is it, like trading cards? Maybe like Magic the Gathering or Yu-Gi-Oh! Or something like that, except for it doesn't really have, the small difference, of course, between that would be, if you bought 3 packs of Magic, you're guaranteed probably, or you should be, in the most part, if somebody hasn't pulled them out yet, which should be guaranteed like a rare or something like that. So at least it gives you odds. And FIFA recently, I think they may have actually started putting odds somewhere on a site, somewhere buried somewhere, something like that. I don't know, maybe in game. There was a lot of talk about that one time. I don't really remember how it got resolved, to be totally honest right now. But yeah, the part of this I don't agree with is any other in-game item paid with real money. No, because they're not all games of chance, right? Card packs, games of chance. These loot boxes here, these would be games of chance, right? However, if you were to purchase something that was, not a loot box, it's not exactly a game of chance anymore. Like I originally started talking about was League of Legends, right? And how if you wanted to buy Superhero Teemo, you just, you drop some coin into Riot points, cash into Riot points, and then you spend those Riot points on the thing. Now, the thing I hate about those systems, anyway, the thing I hate about those systems is how they convert things, right? It's not exactly just the conversion itself, like 100 points might equal $1 or anything. It's the fact that how they sell it to you. You can't buy the exact amount that you want. That also needs to be stopped too. In my opinion, I hate that just as much as loot boxes almost, where say you want to buy an item, and if you take the price of say, 15,000, all right, and we'll say that equals $15 real money when you convert it into whatever currency they're using. However, you can either buy their money or their currency in groups of 10, 20, 40, 99 or something like that, cash, and convert that into their current money thing, which puts you into this position where, well, I just want to spend $15, but in order for me to spend $15, I have to buy $20 worth of their currency. So then the other $5 just sits there until maybe one day you decide you want to spend that on something or dump some more money into it, or maybe you get into a position again where there's something else for 15, and then you just drop the 10, and it sort of equals out later on in the long game. But right then and there, you're forced to pay extra money for something you don't want, right? That's something I really hate too. If you're going to have an in-game currency and you're not going to sell these things for actual dollar values, sell it in a way in which, you can buy exactly what you want for the price that you want without dumping extra money into it. That would be fantastic, people. But as a result, because of all that and stuff, when you buy a skin or something like that, you're buying the skin directly. That's not a game of chance. You know exactly what you're buying. You're buying that car, that skin, that weapon, whatever it is that you're buying in the game, right? And it's not a game of chance. It's not a loot box. So no, that does not need to be labeled as such. you know, if anything, that literally in-game purchases literally covers that one. That's the one time I would concede the whole this product contains in-game purchases would be fine as a label on the ESRB rating or PEGI or whatever. But if it's going to have a loot box, it also needs to include, you know, has in-app purchases or in-game purchases and loot boxes or gambling mechanics also, to let you know that there's both that particular kind of items that are available, but at the same time there's a loot box system also in place. This way, you know, you can make a much better informed decision, because if you buy something that just says in-app purchases or whatever, and then you get in and those in-app purchases are nothing but loot boxes, you know, that's one way to kind of tick me off anyway. But some action has already been taken in Belgium. Loot boxes were banned. Okay, it was Belgium. Due to similar fears earlier this year, game rating agency PEGI said clear warning labels would be added, which I hadn't checked the PEGI system because that's sort of the rest of the world. I actually pay attention to the ESRB, which is something that we talked about a while back, yeah, anyway, this is actually something we did pull up and talk about back when it did, you know, get thrown out there that this was actually going to happen, that they were putting in-game purchases, including random items. You know, that, I mean, yeah, that's not exactly loot boxes, because anyway, the in-game purchases could be, I don't know, maybe it is loot boxes. Maybe I've changed my mind on that just a little bit. But, you know, loot boxes feels like it's a much easier term for people to understand and learn. It includes random items, doesn't exactly tell you how that works, but their reasoning behind that is because loot boxes technically can be card packs as well. Therefore, it's just include random items, even though a card pack is just a loot box, is a loot box, is a loot box. Anyway, where were we? I feel like we missed something. There was something else I wanted to read. But anyway, yeah, they made the, yeah, this is what's going to happen. Anyway, I think it's run on long enough. There was something else I was going to read, and I can't really remember what it was now. But yeah, essentially this Lord of Gambling Committee, the House of Lords Gambling Committee, which I'm not 100% sure what that is, because I'm not from the UK, so I don't exactly understand how their government exactly works. So whether or not this is a good thing or a bad thing, I assume if it's newsworthy, this is a higher level in somewhere in the government that has some kind of pull to it. So, you know, only time will tell in the future what happens, but other countries are still taking note of this and starting to do things as well, like the US. And when you start getting the US and the UK onto the same bandwagon as Belgium and these other countries that are taking note of it, you know, EA might want to rethink their strategy on how they handle loot boxes. In fact, any company, Blizzard and all the others, should probably rethink their stances on loot boxes and how they want to monetize games. You know, you want to give us something that's for a straight up price point, that's fine, but at the same time, don't give us loot boxes. Anyway, let me know what you think about this down in the comments below, and I will talk to you later. See ya. Hey, thanks for watching. Don't forget to leave a comment, smash that like button, and always subscribe for more. And of course, there are other videos floating around somewhere on the screen, so click one of those and see if you can find something that suits your fancy. Till then, I'll see you later. Bye.